Hello, and welcome back to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. My name is Cam, and for this upload, we will be reading Exodus chapter 10. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go in unto Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants, that I might shew these my signs before him, and that thou mayest tell in the ears of thy son and of thy son's son what things I have wrought in Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, that ye may know how that I am the Lord. And Moses and Aaron came in unto Pharaoh, and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, God of the Hebrews, How long wilt thou refuse to humble thyself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me. Else, if thou refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow will I bring the locusts into thy coast, and they shall cover the face of the earth, that one cannot be able to see the earth, and they shall eat the residue of that which is escaped, which remaineth unto you from the hail, and shall eat every tree which groweth for you out of the field. And they shall fill thy houses, and the houses of all thy servants, and the houses of all the Egyptians, which neither thy fathers nor thy fathers' fathers have seen, since the day that they were upon the earth unto this day. And he turned himself and went out from Pharaoh. And Pharaoh's servants said unto him, How long shall this man be a snare unto us? Let the men go, so that they may serve their Lord their God. Knowest thou not yet that Egypt is destroyed? And Moses and Aaron were brought again unto Pharaoh. And he said to them, Go, serve the Lord your God. But who are they that shall go? Moses said, We will go with our young and with our old, with our sons and with our daughters, with our flocks and with our herds, will we go, for we must hold a feast unto the Lord. And he said unto them, Let the Lord be with you, as I will let you go, and your little ones, look to it, for evil is before you. Not so. Go ye that are men, and serve the Lord, or that ye did desire. And they were driven out from Pharaoh's presence. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come up upon the land of Egypt, and eat every herb of the land, even all that the hail hath left. And Moses stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts, and the locust went up over all the land of Egypt, and rested in all the coasts of Egypt. Very grievous were they. Before them there were no such locusts as they, neither after them shall be such. For they covered the face of the whole earth, so that the land was darkened. And they did eat every herb of the land, and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left. And there remained not any green thing in the trees, or in the herbs of the field, through all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste, and he said, I have sinned against the Lord your God, and against you. Now therefore forgive, I pray thee, my sin only this once, and entreat the Lord your God, that he may take away from me this death only. And he went out from Pharaoh, and entreated the Lord. And the Lord turned a mighty strong west wind, which took away the locusts, and cast them into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in all the coast of Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, so that he would not let the children of Israel go. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. They saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days, but all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. And Pharaoh called unto Moses and said, Go ye, serve the Lord. Only let your flocks and your herds be stayed. Let your little ones also go with you. And Moses said, Thou must give us also sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice unto the Lord our God. Our cattle shall also go with us. There shall not an hoof be left behind, for thereof must we take to serve the Lord our God. And we know not with what we must serve the Lord, until we come thither. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. And Pharaoh said unto him, Get thee from me, take heed to thyself. See my face no more, for in that day thou seest my face, thou shalt die. And Moses said, Thou hast spoken well. I will see thy face again no more. Summarizing Exodus chapter 10, God tells Moses to talk to Pharaoh. God said he's hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he can display his miracles. Moses and Aaron warn Pharaoh of the locusts as the next plague if Pharaoh doesn't let the enslaved go. The locusts will cover the earth and eat the remainder of the crops left over from the hailstorm. In chapter 10, verse 7, Pharaoh's servants is starting to turn against him, and they ask, How much longer will Moses be a nuisance? You should let them go. Don't you see Egypt is already destroyed? Pharaoh asked Moses and Aaron back and told them only the able bodied men could go worship, but everyone else had to stay behind. And he even makes the facetious comment that the Lord must be with you if I'm even allowing this. In verse 10, God instructed Moses to outstretch his hands, bringing forth locusts, which consumed any remaining crops and wildlife from the storm. Pharaoh then agreed to let them go, and as soon as the plague was lifted, he hardened his heart again. So the next plague was a 3-day darkness. Pharaoh sent for Moses and Pharaoh, agreeing to only allow the people to go, but not the animals. Moses reiterated that the animals were needed to be sacrifices. God allowed Pharaoh's heart to be hardened again. And he told Moses and Aaron that they'd die if Pharaoh were to ever see their faces again. Moses agrees and he leaves. The highlights of Exodus chapter 10. God says that he's hardened Pharaoh's heart, or the Bible says that God has hardened Pharaoh's heart, or actually both. God says himself, I've hardened Pharaoh's heart. God created everything, so he's taking accountability. So, him saying he's hardened Pharaoh's heart, he's given Pharaoh the ability to have his heart hardened. Why? Because Earth exists in accordance with duality. Every creation is a two-sided coin. Belief cannot exist without disbelief, and having the choice is necessary for each side to exist. Opposing entities are necessary to distinguish and define terms. Again, a rudimentary observation of Christianity would always ask the question, why would God create sin if he knew that humans would sin? Why would God make Pharaoh's heart hard? This is the essence of duality. One thing, one creation cannot exist without its opposite. In the book of Genesis, when we look at chapter 1, verse 4, chapter 1, verse 10, chapter 1, verse 12, verse 18, verse 21, and verse 25. When we look at each of these verses, God created something, he observed, he determined that it was good, and then he continued creating. The reason why we're pointing this out is because it's with the Christian faith, it's the question always comes up, why did God create sin? God didn't just create sin. You can't have holiness if you don't have sin. You can't have one without the other. They both exist. And from the beginning of creation, when he created light, there had to be darkness here for light to exist. There had to be wet water here for dry land to appear. So God is creating this earth is always in a state of duality. That's why he had to stop and observe, because he created two things with everything that he created. They're two sides of the same coin. This is worth mentioning because another point or another what some things that people like to say about Christianity is that the Bible is just a book and it's written by man. But we need to counter that by also reminding these people that like to say that all knowledge, all spiritual wisdom, all scientific wisdom is all brought to you through a man, through a book. Any knowledge that you get is recorded and organized through man and requires an investment of time and of money. The Bible, self help books, therapy, any type of different spirituality, all requires man to transmit that message. There's no way to get that message without a man. Because if somebody told you God wrote this Bible, that would not go over well. As we see with these plagues, in order for God to, this world is a physical world. In order for God to get his will done on earth, he needs man. God has the power to do things, but told Moses, he told Aaron, outstretch your hands, throw your staff down, pour the water, get the water from the Nile and pour it out. Chapter 10, verse 1. God hardened Pharaoh's heart so he can display his miracles. God created everything, including Pharaoh and his choice in a world of duality. So he's taking responsibility for Pharaoh's hardened heart. God allowed Pharaoh to continue making his own choice to disregard God's warning. God wanted him, God wanted the opportunity to emphasize that he is the true God through performing his miracles. Chapter 10, verse 2, and chapter 7, verse 5, he's mentioned that he wants to show that he's the true God. And this does two things. God allowing Pharaoh to make his own choice, it gives God the opportunity to do two things, and it gives Pharaoh the opportunity to experience two things. The first thing, it gives Pharaoh grace. When we consider Pharaoh, he is an esteemed, powerful ruler. I feel like I have something on my teeth. He is an experienced and esteemed, powerful ruler. Pharaoh has access to unlimited resources, and he has a staff of magicians or people around him with the ability to explain and produce supernatural occurrences. Because of this, there is not much room in his life for compassion, humbleness, or even for God. In Pharaoh's eyes, he is God, or as close as a person can be to God. These miracles give Pharaoh time and multiple instances to recognize that he is not God, to honor his agreement with Moses, and to realize reason for this enslavement is for a fearful, unfounded suspicion. If we remember, chapter 1, the reason why the Israelites are even enslaved is because the Pharaoh had a fear of their capacity. I want to keep saying that because the Hebrews never indicated that they had a problem with the Egyptians. They never indicated that they wanted to rebel. The Egyptians saw how how populous they were and became fearful at their capacity. The second thing that God displaying his miracles and allowing time for Pharaoh to make his own decision, this inspires other people who are watching. And this proves God's ability to onlookers who are not directly involved. In chapter 8, verse 19, magicians explicitly told Pharaoh that this plague of lice, read my handwriting for a second. Sometimes I can't read my own handwriting. But chapter 8, verse 19, the magicians told Pharaoh the plague of lice is God because they couldn't replicate it. In chapter 9, verse 20, Pharaoh's servants adhered to God's warning of hail. And then we even saw in this chapter, find that again. In this chapter, chapter 10, verse 7, Pharaoh's servants started to turn on Pharaoh again. How long will you let this man be a nuisance? Let them go worship their God. So, those are the highlights for Exodus chapter 10, and the next upload will be Exodus chapter 11. I appreciate you watching up until this point. See you in the next upload.